we begin in Butler, Pennsylvania, a small rural community an hour outside Pittsburgh, where supporters who watched former President Donald Trump get shot welcomed him back. The attack at the town's fairgrounds in July killed a man and wounded 2 others. Well, tonight, Trump returned to the same stage, but under very different political circumstances. Then President Biden was his opponent, and Trump was coming off of a dominating debate performance and was leading in the national polls. Well, now he faces Vice President Kamala Harris and a race that is neck and neck. CBS's H.Helene Burns is in Butler, where Trump began with a unifying message. Caitlin, good evening to you.
Good evening, Jerika. Well, thousands of people, including those from around the country, came here to Butler to see the former president's return. And while the scene behind me may look similar to that rally that day in July, the state of the race and the level of security has all changed.
As I was saying,
former President Donald Trump returned to Butler, Pennsylvania with a message.
So 12 weeks ago, we all took a bullet for America, and all we are all asking is that everyone goes out and vote. And all of this will be for nothing if you don't get out and vote.
Trump and the crowd paid tribute to Corey Comparator, a supporter who lost his life that day shielding his family from the bullets. His seat in the crowd was marked by his firefighter uniform. Saturday's rally was set up to be almost identical to the one in July, complete with a large American flag blowing over the crowd, but with notable security exceptions. The U.S. Secret Service expanded the security perimeter and stationed personnel on the roof of the shed from where the shooter fired. Snipers stood atop a row of trailers put in place to block the line of sight from that shed to the stage. Rob Hunt was standing just 25 yards away from the stage that day in July and returned today.
If he was willing to come back to where he was shot, I'm willing to come back.
What does it mean to you that he's returning to this place?
It means that, hey, he's a fighter and he's going to fight for us.
And with just 1 month to go before Election Day, Trump is fighting for his political life, tied with Vice President Kamala Harris in the key battleground state of Pennsylvania.
And today's rally is not only symbolic, it's also one of necessity. The election is just 1 month from today, and Pennsylvania has the most electoral votes to offer out of all of the battleground states. Jerika?
Important to note that. H.Helene Burns in Butler, Pennsylvania. Thank you. Today, the Democratic nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris, headed to North Carolina to survey the devastation from Hurricane Helene. Harris praised the work of strangers helping strangers, pledging ongoing federal support.
Federal assistance for these issues is, I know, extremely important because a lot of folks don't save for these kinds of emergencies, and when they hit, it takes a real drain on their resources and ability to take care of themselves and their family.
This was Harris's second trip in just 4 days to the disaster zone. The storm's death toll is now at least 229 across 6 states, but many people remain unaccounted for, with their families desperate for answers, and the search for them is complicated. Janet Shamlian is in the battered community of Morganton, North Carolina, with more on that part of the story. Janet.
Good evening. There is so much suffering here tonight, Jerika. This tragedy, now entering its second week, it's hard to overstate the vastness of the devastation.
It's just heartbreaking, guys, I'm telling you.
Floodwaters took everything from Alvin Stiles except his faith in humanity.
These are toiletries, toothbrushes, a deodorant, soap, washcloths.
All right, we can always use that stuff.
His home in Morgantown, North Carolina, destroyed. Stiles sleeps in a tent. Even amid unimaginable loss, he's lifted by kindness.
What's that like when people you don't know show up?
I didn't know there was as many people that care about people like they've been caring here today and yesterday for us. It's just been overwhelming.
This is the story across a weary storm zone. The ugly business of cleaning up. The beautiful gifts. Volunteering and donations, including a big one, $1 million from Tennessee's own Dolly Parton.
I mean, who knew in our little part of the country here, where I was born and raised, just right down the road, that we would have this kind of devastation.
The impact now felt across the country. The closure of a North Carolina medical manufacturer has several hospitals dealing with IV fluid shortages. And General Motors stopped production at plants in Texas and Michigan because it can't get parts from storm-impacted suppliers. From supplies delivered by helicopter to water and food deliveries made by mule, resources from across the country heading to those hardest hit. We spent Saturday morning at Asheville High School where a hot breakfast was served and where those in need and those helping to fulfill the need were frequently one and the same.
There's no reason to hold my head down. God is still in the working business, and I'm blessed to be here.
With power slowly being restored, the bigger issue tonight is running water. Tens of thousands are without it. In Eureka, many people are being told it will be at least 4 weeks before it's running again. Man, our prayers to the communities that have been impacted. Janet, thank you so much. Today, around the globe, there were demonstrations ahead of the 1-year mark of the Hamas attack on Israel and the war in Gaza that has followed. Tens of thousands showed up in several cities, most in support of the Palestinians in Gaza. But in Rome, protesters clashed with police. Water cannons and tear gas were used to disperse the crowd. Well, tonight, Israel launched new punishing airstrikes at targets in Beirut. Huge explosions hitting the city. This as the head of the U.S. Central Command arrived in Israel as the war widens. CBS's MTS Tayeb is in the Lebanese capital with the very latest. MTS.
Good evening. Israel's bombing campaign across Lebanon is expanding tonight. For the first time, the country's north has been targeted, killing a member of Hamas, not Hezbollah, as strikes elsewhere intensify.
Dressed in black and wearing emerald-colored headbands, the colors of Hamas. This is the funeral of Said Attallah, a commander for the militant group's Qassam brigades, along with his wife and 2 daughters who were killed in the Israeli strike. But it's Hezbollah Israel says it's after, as it ramps up its bombing campaign across Lebanon, leveling entire buildings. Like this one. 1 week ago, Israeli fighter jets targeted this building in the predominantly Christian village of Ain al-Delb. It was full of people who had fled the fighting further south. At least 60 people were killed, according to Lebanese health officials.
Well, this was once a 5-story building, and as you can see, it's now just a mountain of rubble. All that's left of what was once people's lives, just bits of clothing and dust.
One shoe, a pair of jeans, and a family picture. Relics of lives that no longer exist. In the shadow of Beirut's iconic blue mosque, more displaced families are living out in the open, including Syrian refugee Mohammed Ahmed Al-Naim and his family. Part of the 1.2 million across Lebanon who've abandoned their homes for